Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Delighted to have your company. This particular panel session has the privilege of sort of bringing day three to a close, and a close as well on a very profound topic, something that's still at the heart of the energy mix but is much maligned. We're talking about coal, and it needn't be, because if you're looking at pragmatic solutions, if you're looking at the direction of travel, coal features heavily in this mix. And there might be detractors, there might be people who say that it's need. It is simply needed because if you look at the approaching horizon, we have to be realistic, and coal is still used in meaningful volumes in major economies like China, our hosts, India, the United States, and a host of other countries. Why? Because perhaps we cannot decouple in a snap. Now, to discuss the approaching horizon, to discuss how do we charge a balanced and pragmatic approach in a secure energy mix and have coal at the heart of it, uh, along with other fossil fuels. We have an all-star cast of panelists to discuss this. Joining us is Mr. Vikram Dutt, Secretary, Minister of Coal, Government of India. We are delighted to have Kyle Haustveit, who's the Assistant Secretary for Hydrocarbons and Geothermal Energy of the United States Department of Energy. And last but certainly not the least, we have Mr. B. Sairam, who's the Chairman and Managing Director of Coal India Limited. Gentlemen, welcome. Delighted to have you. Mr. Devdutt, let me just jump straight into it. We talk about pragmatism, we talk about the direction of travel. A bit of realism is required in this debate when we talk about coal versus other fossil fuels and other renewable technologies.
Thank you, Gaurav. Just to make my opening remarks and put the entire theme of your opening question in context and perspective and in all its dimensions, let me throw some facts and figures at you. Today, India is the second largest producer and consumer of coal. China, of course, is the largest producer and consumer. But as you mentioned, alluded to in your opening remarks, there are other economies which have a significant production of coal and also a significant production of coal in the energy mix, for example, the United States. So, pragmatism would essentially dictate that if we look at the global energy landscape, there cannot be a fundamental disconnect between climate rhetoric and the ground reality as it exists today. So, coal is the underpinning of the Indian economy, if I am to talk about India. 3 million livelihoods, direct and indirect. If we look at coal reserves, 401 billion tons, fifth largest in the world. We look at energy mix, it's about 55%. If we look at power generation, it's about 72%. So it's not going to go away in a hurry because we have a growing appetite in a growing economy. There are developmental needs. The growth trajectory dictates that coal will continue to ascend the curve in the Indian context till at least the middle of the next decade. And possibly, as is the case in many other developing economies, the need for affordable and dependable baseload power is not a choice, it's an imperative. I think although renewables and our commitment to overall climate goals and net zero by 2070 is very much a complementary agenda. There is no contradiction between the two, but there is a journey. And that journey would dictate that the mantra is not phase out, it is phase down. Phase down in graduated steps which match the realities of the entire ecosystem. Because there is an irrefutable moral case also for policy space.
And Mr. Oswald, irrefutable moral case, some pragmatic steps. Mr. Devdutt has sort of outlined how complex the situation is and how coal matters to India. What about the United States? And of course, your take on a pragmatic journey forward.
Yes, absolutely. Coal powered the modern world. It fueled it for power. The coking coal, the metallurgical coal, is what built the modern world. And it's not going away. It shouldn't go away. There's been a lack of pragmatism. There's been too much rhetoric around climate, and people forgot that reliable, affordable, secure energy needs to be the priority. Humans that have access to energy live a more prosperous life and they live longer. Coal's a critical part of the global power ecosystem, accounting for approximately a third of all global power generation. It's the third largest fuel source in the United States for power generation at about 16%. And in the last few days, when the United States experienced a historic winter storm, coal persevered. You can have fuel on site for 30, 40, 50 days, and it doesn't matter if it's raining, shining, windy or not, coal can power through. So the traditional uses of coal will continue to increase. More coal was consumed this year than last year, and more coal will be consumed next year than this year. It's a critical part of the energy mix. It shouldn't go away. It should continue to be modernized and optimized. We've invested over $625 million in this administration. We've made announcements to extend the life of our coal fleet. We're actively trying to find ways to support the industry, to increase our exports. The United States is home to the largest reserves of coal and the highest quality metallurgical coal in the world. We're here to meet with our Indian counterparts to ensure that we're partnering together through innovation, through technology transfer. Coal is not just power generation and steel manufacturing. It's chemicals through gasification. We're seeing new uses, using the coal to create graphite for batteries. There's an abundant source of opportunities, including critical minerals. So the world's not moving away from coal. It shouldn't move away from coal. We need to embrace it and celebrate it and recognize it for the important fuel source it is for humans.
Absolutely. Mr. Sar, we've heard from our eminent policy-making colleagues. Over to you, sir. We talk about the energy trilemma. We talk about affordability, security, sustainability. Now, two of those planks, affordability and security, are very much predicated on coal in several parts of the world, including India. So, what is your viewpoint on how you see the approaching horizon?
Yes, Gaurav. Actually, I represent the coal miners community. I'm a hardcore coal miner, so to say. And first, to introduce about my company. In fact, my company does not require any introduction. I represent Coal India Limited, which is the biggest single coal producing company in the world. It is a Maharatna Central Public Sector Enterprise, which is under the administrative control of Ministry of Coal, Government of India. We mine around 700. We mined around 781 million ton last year, and this year our target is 850 million ton. Going forward, our targets are 1 billion ton by FY 28-29. So this is the scale of operations which Coal India has. Almost 3/4 of the coal is produced by Coal India. And the thing is that even after producing, last year we produced 1 billion ton. Yeah. Domestically, overall, right. Coal India plus others included together. But still we imported 243 millions, out of which 58 million ton is this coking coal, which is maybe not replaceable. But there is a chance, there is an opportunity to replace the thermal coal. So from that point of view, it is a good thing for India to progress on this higher coal production to save the country from the drainage of precious foreign currency. So that is my take.
Mr. Dutt, we've seen some of the opening discussions reflecting the realism out in the market. Now, even the International Energy Agency has now acknowledged that coal will last well past some of the peak that people predicted, 2030, which looks very silly right now. It's 2026 and people predicted a peak. Now, that approaching horizon, how do you, as the Secretary Minister of Coal, how do you see the approaching horizon, make it price positive, affordable, energy affordability for the Indian consumer, sir?
So I would say that coal is actually the anchor or the bridge at this point of time in terms of a strategic stabilization to a greener future. And in terms of the peaks which were predicted at different points of time and which is estimated now, one also has to take into account that the situation is always a dynamic and evolving situation. You have huge energy demand coming up from data centers being set up all over the place, from electric vehicles, electric charging points. So the energy demand is going to continue to grow. In the Indian context, the per capita energy consumption is only 1/3 of what developed economies consume. And with the Viksit Bharat 2047 goals, this would involve a trebling of the energy consumption, which means that coal will continue while renewables continue to be added to the grid. Storage technologies will have to evolve. If the green grid concept is to finally stabilize at some point of time. But mitigations in terms of coal being perceived as a dirty fuel or thermal power plants and emissions being a cause for climate concern, mitigations are also to be people centric, where revenues from coal will fund the green energy infrastructure to come. Another very prominent strand which I see going forward is the fact that with the vast volume of coal reserves, which, as my esteemed colleague from the United States has just mentioned in their case and also in our case, and the imperative for speedy utilization and accelerated utilization of those coal reserves, clean coal technologies are going to be center stage going forward in terms of gasification, both surface coal gasification as well as underground coal gasification. And the government of India has already moved forward proactively on the policy front, announcing a viability gap funding scheme, substituting, giving capex support to initial shelf of projects which are now coming on board. And then on the anvil is a far more ambitious scheme which would also look at the gasification space in terms of the Chinese experience, where a lot of these projects came up in clusters and things like that. And we realized that coal mining also has to move with the times, and it has to move with the conscience. So when I say this, to amplify, to move with the times means the technology enablement of every facet of operation of the coal sector has to factor in increased efficiencies, which would, whether it is in mining operations per se or in the logistics part, would add to the efficiencies and lower the carbon footprint. And on the second hand, in terms of the communities which get adversely affected by mining in the vicinity of the coal mining areas, scientific mine closures of mined out areas and abandoned mines, as well as repurposing of those lands in a meaningful sense, generating economic opportunities for the communities, is a very, very pronounced policy thrust of the government, and which is already underway in terms of implementation.
Mr. Haustveit, we've heard the sort of, Mr. Dave just set out the stall for a burgeoning, fast-growing economy like India and the complexities faces and coal in the context of that. Now, for the United States, it's got its own unique set of challenges. You are a data superpower. You will have the largest data centers in the world. You're the expansively a consumer base of 350 million people. In that respect, the president came out straight fighting, straight out of the block. It's not as if he hates solar or he hates anything else. He just simply said coal is part of the mix and shall stay there because got beautiful coal. That's part of our mining mix, and it shall stay there alongside. And he also caveated by saying, I love solar, don't take that wrong. So we take the US example and what Mr. Trump said, to help, for the benefit of our audience, sort of expand on that. Give us a flavor of what are the efforts that are underway in Washington, D.C., and how are you outward looking? And among those efforts, what are you particularly proud of, something that's close to your heart?
Yes. First, I'm proud to work for the administration. President Trump is a bold leader. Secretary Wright is a bold leader. And they speak the truth. Common sense, America first. Our allies are important to us. And they understand that you need your energy to be affordable, reliable, and secure. So instead of shutting down and retiring coal plants before their end of life, this administration has protected nearly 20 gigawatts of coal power plants in the last year that the prior administration had planned to shut down. For 12 of the last 16 years, the coal industry has been under attack. And now our president proudly refers to it as beautiful, clean coal because he understands how critical it is to the energy mix. Secretary Wright boldly said long before it became more pragmatic in the discussion that the only net zero effort that we should be pursuing is net zero energy poverty. Net zero emissions drives up costs. We've seen it time and time again in locality and states and some countries that have gone too far too fast. It results in unreliable energy, higher costs, deindustrialization,
Indeed,
a shrinking economy. So we've seen these case studies, and I don't know why anyone would pursue an effort that would push jobs outside of their country. You want to bring the jobs back. That's what we've seen President Trump do by ensuring that U.S. produces energy that's affordable, reliable, and secure. So I'm most proud that we stepped in and we told the coal industry that they're incredibly valuable. We kicked off the National Coal Council just a couple of weeks ago that was shut down in the prior administration. We brought them back and we reinforced how critical that industry is to the United States and to our allies. I mentioned we've announced $625 million of investment into the existing fleet because it's critical to balancing the grid, to protecting the grid, and providing the energy that we need to support the onshoring and manufacturing.
Mr. Saram, you've heard colleagues make a case for realism and set out their stall from a policy-making perspective for the world's largest economy and the world's third largest economy and growing economy. Now, for that third largest economy, i.e. in the Indian context, set it out for us. Where do you see, what if you had a crystal ball, where do you see India sit in, coal's future in India's energy mix?
Yeah, for this we need to understand the twin objectives of India. We are at our energy mix should be at the intersection of these two twin objectives. They are essential, uncompromising, but contrasting. The one is deep electrification, and the second is deep decarbonization. So we need to go by the climate pledges and make the environment clean. At the same time, we need to take care of the average citizens of our country to provide them affordable and reliable power all the time. There is an urge to increase the per capita electricity consumption from 1400 around 1500 per person as of now to 2000 by 2030 and 40, and then by 2050 it has to be at the level of the developed economy, which means around 4000 to 4005 kilowatt hour per person. So that is one objective, and the second objective is to reduce our this per capita GDP per capita energy emissions. So that is also there. Then by 2070 we had to be net zero. So with these two challenges, there is no point in choosing which one to select, RE or thermal. No,
Right.
no, it has to be complementary and supplementary. Means it has to be a sequential phase out of coal and taking over by this RE. There is a strong case that RE is winning the race as far as cost is concerned, as well as far as this climate reduction, climate consumption is concerned. But at the same time, we need to understand that coal is something which is firm and dispatchable. The same is not the property of RE. RE is infirm in nature. Infirm means it is unpredictable, has got intermittency, it has got variability, and it has got locational dependency. So all these factors combined together make RE an infirm power. So infirm power leads to grid instability, frequency imbalance, and all those things. So going forward, the role of coal will be more of I would say enabler of peak loading and flexible operation, and at the same time supporting the renewables. Means coal will be acting as a big brother for these siblings.
I like
to,
that expression.
to oversee the growth of these renewables by the time they become adult.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a very refreshing way
Yeah. So
to.
my takeaway
to put
is
it.
the integration, not the substitution.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
I think at this point in time, having set out the context, heard some of the policy initiatives, and of course practical steps that are on the ground, I think members of the audience would like to perhaps explore the avenue of where both your great nations can cooperate and what is the direction forward. So over to you first, Mr. Dev, that what kind of bilateral cooperation do you see? Of course, predicated on realism, of course, predicated on volume of trade, but what kind of bilateral work can you see between both countries and coal?
In fact, we had a conversation bilaterally before we came down for India Energy Week here, and the extent of commonality is unbelievable in terms of not only the common thought process on coal, but also in terms of what would constitute common ground going forward. So, as I mentioned earlier in my comments about coal gasification and how it is a national imperative to push coal gasification, The US being a technological powerhouse and having a Department of Energy which also administers NETL, and we had been to the NETL facility in Morgantown, which is a fantastic innovation facility for all kinds of innovations and patents. We believe that gasification and related technologies, carbon capture, critical minerals, is the entire ecosystem of possibilities is something which we can mutually tap into. And there, both in the commercial space as well as in the government space, there can be a G2G framework between the two countries, which would be a win-win situation for both the countries. In terms of what he had mentioned earlier in his statement about high quality metallurgical coal, I think given the expansion plans of the steel sector in India, the United States contributes about 10% of imports into India at the moment. But metallurgical coke is something which is very high in demand, and there are some intrinsic limitations of Indian metallurgical coal in terms of high ash content, which is where the possibilities for the US in terms of exports of metallurgical coal also exist.
Believe it or not, I've been to the Morgantown facility as well. So some of the R&D going on over there certainly doesn't give you the flavor that it's on its way out. People are just doing some deep-seated research there, come up with some of the solutions. So over to you, Mr. Haustveit. I mean, we've had a flavor on. So what would be your message to India on behalf of DOE on cooperation, bilateral cooperation on this front?
The United States is open for business. So that's the message. We want to partner. I appreciate the shout out to our National Energy Technology Laboratory. An exciting announcement that will officially christen next week is we're going to create a center of excellence for coal. This administration, again, understands the importance of coal, so much so that we're dedicating one of our national lab sites to coal research. We're going to welcome our National Coal Council, industry, academia, so that we can properly acknowledge, focus our efforts, our research at Morgantown. And we'll allow Morgantown to tap into the other 16 national labs, because you're right, there's so many uses for coal beyond power generation and metallurgy. And we want to partner with India on technology transfer. We want to export more coal. We invite investment into North Dakota. We want to partner, create durability and certainty in supply. That certainty provides stability in pricing that ultimately benefits the end consumer. It'll benefit America, it'll benefit India. We greatly appreciate the partnership. The bilateral, as my colleague mentioned, was extremely fruitful. Just like every meeting we've had this week, India is ready for business, and the United States wants to continue to deepen our partnership.
And especially, if I may, while very briefly, I mean, domestically also, it provides a macroeconomic shot in the arm for the eastern United States, if you look at it that way in terms of opportunity and jobs, sir.
100%, absolutely. From the miners to the rail to the ports to the ships, coal provides high-paying jobs, reliable jobs, and it has for over 100 years. It's not going away, nor should it. We need to embrace it, invest in it, help modernize it, and continue to drive value from coal.
Mr. Ram, we talk about bilateral relations here,
Yes.
and of course, if you're sort of having a stable level of coal in the system, that raises an issue. How can India bank on coal as a reliable transition enabler? Because if it's here for the medium to sort of long term, how would it serve as a transition enabler for a large, huge burgeoning economy like India?
Yeah, Gaurav, actually coal is both a transition challenge as well as a transition enabler, I would say.
Fair enough, sure.
Transition challenge because if not for coal, which other source will support our evening peaks? That is a big thing. And then which of the other sources would support the grid balance and the frequency control systems? That is one thing. Besides, India is hugely a lot of districts, around 42 districts overall, and 8 states of the country are largely coal economy dependent. So that level of economic disparity will be there. Then socio-economic impact of the affected people will be there. So all these combined together, there will be a big challenge in transitioning. So that is one thing. But at the same time, coal is a transition enabler also. because as I had told earlier, that coal provides that grid stability, frequency, balance, and at the same time provides that peaking support and acts as a flexible operation. So without this, this acts as a complementary thing for the REs to grow and grow like anything.
Sure.
So from that point of view, it is a this challenge as well as enabler for the transition. So in the new age, what we will be seeing is that it will gradually move from the inflexible baseload operation to that flexible morning peak and then evening peak,
Right,
and then
right.
taking care of the variability and intermittency of these REs. So that would be the new role which would be assumed by coal. At the same time, when going forward, when the REs dominate in the energy mix, coal will have certain other uses also. And we are moving ahead on those things. For example, this, as I had told by other panelists, the coal gasification part, then coal to chemical part, means the use of coal from thermal part to its chemical part. So we will use each and every atom, each and every carbon atom for the good use of the society and for the nation.
Sure. Gentlemen, I'm conscious of time, but just very briefly, when we talk about clean coal and the approaching horizon, Mr. Devdutt, you first. Could you attest to some of the R&D efforts on that front that are afoot in India, and of course to Mr. Haustveit for the United States? You mentioned a center of excellence for coal, perhaps a little bit more on that. But you first, sir.
Yeah. So, in terms of the alternative use of coal and clean coal technologies, we, as I mentioned, looking at gasification. Coal India is carrying out an underground coal gasification pilot project in one of their subsidiaries, which is now in its phase 2. And by around September this year, we would be in a fair position to evaluate the outcomes of that pilot project in terms of the production consistency of the syngas and the possible effects, if any, on groundwater and the like. And that would basically serve as a very useful learning and collection of data points for future underground coal gasification projects which may come up. In fact, the government is moving with a lot of complementarity and speed in terms of tapping the underground coal gasification network as well, because in the recent round of auctions, we put out certain identified deep-seated blocks for underground coal gasification, because 40% of India's coal reserves are below 300 meters, which are not amenable economically or otherwise to conventional mining, given all the other adverse limiting factors. So R&D efforts are also afoot on carbon capture technologies. Hackathons are conducted regularly, and then the findings of the hackathon are then converted into small-scale commercial.
Mr. Haustveit, a word on the Center of Excellence for Coal. People in this part of the world may or may not be familiar with it, but it's a nice ring to it. Please elaborate on it and give us a bit more.
Absolutely. The key goal of the Center of Excellence is to serve as a front door for industry to engage with our national laboratories. Our national labs have some of the most talented researchers in the world. The labs have the equipment to perform advanced testing that are limited many times to our national labs. So we want to make sure that not only does the industry understand that the labs exist, but they have a direct line to our researchers so we can work together to solve commercial problems that scale, that solve real problems. We've used the word clean a lot, and it's subjective. I think to be more objective, we're talking about the carbon intensity. How can we impact the carbon intensity of power generation? And carbon capture has a place, but it has a place when you use the CO2 to create more energy. If you're simply capturing the carbon to store it, you're reducing the energy output capacity of the plant, and then you're adding cost to the system, which is ultimately adding cost to the consumer. We believe CO2 is an incredible injectant for enhanced oil recovery. Much of the United States production is coming from unconventionals right now. Unconventional oil wells are only recovering about 10% of the oil in place, and we believe that if we're going to capture the CO2, we need to utilize it to produce more energy than it consumes to capture it. We need to be net energy generating, and we believe that carbon capture, with the purpose of utilization, has a very strong future. We think we can double the recovery factor of the oil reservoirs in the United States And if we're successful in doing that, we repeat the shale revolution from a volume perspective.
Absolutely. Mr. Ram, colleagues have discussed the R&D, but maybe, again, for the benefit of audiences who may not be familiar, just very briefly, you're a public sector undertaking. How, in terms of the forward pathways, what are the kind of synergies between, to make sure that the coal ministry and yourselves are on the same page? So how does that dialogue happen, just for people who do not know about that?
Yes. Our secretary sir takes regular meetings with us. In fact, every week we take around 2 to 3 meetings, and he's
Right.
very particular about those things. And literally, we, along with under the guidance of Ministry of Coal, are driving these our coal gasification projects. Already, one gasification project in Odisha is means groundbreaking is going to happen very soon. For the other two, the tender process is on, and then we are floating an EUI for creating a coal gasification hub sort of thing. And today we had a discussion with my panelist about participating in that EOI.
Right.
And that is one thing. And second part is this coal washing, which we call coal beneficiation, both for non-cooking coal as well as cooking coal.
Sir.
Because the Indian cooking coal is high in ash content, and whatever universal technologies are available for washing of coal, they use the 20% ash, they reduce 20% ash to the level of 9%. But our ash content is 35 to 40%. How to bring 35, 40 to the level of 9?
Sure.
That is a big question. So I had discussed with our counterpart, and they have told that we need to send samples of Indian coal to their laboratories, and they will find out some things. Yeah.
Gentlemen, great to have your thoughts. It's that stage when I bring proceedings to a close. And it's worth asking, we've had a fascinating conversation here, and love to hear your concluding thoughts, your key takeaways. So Mr. Saram, over the last 30 odd minutes, we've had a great conversation. What are your key takeaways from that?
Yeah, my first key takeaway is that coal will be transitioning from a dominant source to a system support enabler. That is one thing. System means grid system. That is one thing. And second is that coal will be no more be a volume game. More than the quantity, it will be a quality.
Right.
Quality of coal as well as quality of grid support. The providing flexible support, providing good frequency control, grid inertia, all those things. So these are my two key takeaways.
Sure. Mr. Haustveit, your concluding thoughts and your key takeaways, sir?
Coal is critical. It's not going anywhere, and it shouldn't go anywhere. We need to embrace it. We need to continue to drive value through applied technology, but we need to move away from villainizing coal. We need to embrace it, celebrate it, and appreciate all the benefits it brings the modern world.
Sure. Mr. Dev, the final word to you, sir.
I resonate with the views of my panelists that coal will continue to be the underpinning of any energy-based economy. And in a nutshell, the mitigation pathways would continue to be driven by tech-enabled efficiency, by planned transition timelines, as also climate justice principles, but at the same time with the unwavering commitment to very reliable, dependable, and affordable energy security, along with environment sustainability. And the two can coexist happily ever after.
Sure. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your insight, for your richer forward, and your time, spending your invaluable time to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the conclusion, I beg your pardon, of day 3 and the end of the formal dialogue for India Energy Week 2026. Delighted to have your company. Thank you so much, and a round of applause for our eminent panelists. Thank you, and good evening.